So if you're interested in global workplace happiness, then you've come to the right episode. I've just been chatting with Matt Phelan. Matt's at Happiness Index, and we've been talking about a report that they're releasing today, or have released today, and the event is all about the report, which is the Global Workplace Happiness Report. 1.9 million data points, so loads of data. More importantly, loads of great insight to help you ultimately have happier, more engaged, more purpose-driven employees, which ultimately will result in more successful businesses. So let's get on with the chat. Matt, we're live. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for coming, Chris.
Well, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
You were here bright and early with the team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here at wonderful Google offices.
Yeah.
And in particular, to talk about something pretty special.
Yeah.
Which involves how many million?
1.9 million data points.
1.9 million
I've read that about 100 times, but I'm still doubting myself in my head. The report is called the Global Workplace Happiness Report.
Yeah.
That's probably the first thing to get out there.
Yeah.
Last week, people would have seen the World Happiness Report come out.
Yes.
That's looking at all life happiness. We're looking at the work slice.
Yeah,
and as you know, you spend as much time at work as you do at home. So it's incredibly important, but it also feeds into other things like country performance, business performance, all of these things. But fundamentally, we want to get into what's actually going on, out there, not to tell people what to do with it, but just to study it. We've been collecting the data for 12 years now, and we've only finally got round to releasing it. So the 1.9 million data points is just from this collection for this report. We've got about 250 million data points overall, and we're on the road to 1 billion at the moment.
So why is happiness, why important? Because, sometimes obviously there's that classic thing about, well, it's seen as being a bit fluffy. People come to work, they get paid, fantastic. But why happiness, I suppose, in particular, why happiness index?
Yeah, I think probably without going into the research, what a lot of people miss is happiness is linked to performance. So happiness, when people first come to subjects, sometimes people love it, sometimes people hate it, some people think it's fluffy.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is link up performance and happiness. And if anyone listening thinks about their own career and think about when they were at their best, you have to feel in the right state to produce your best work. And a lot of your listeners, Chris, your background, creativity, if you're unhappy or you're stressed at work, it is a tax. It is a tax on creativity. So all of these things matter, and what we try and do is just get more insight and data out there. Not to tell people what to do, not to preach. Importantly, we don't compare countries, even though we do have countries in there, and you could go and do it yourself.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But one of the things that I always feel sad about work that comes out about global is people then start comparing and go, oh, what about Brazil? Is Brazil happier than the UK? And it's natural, we all want to do it, but really the whole point of it is just for us to learn not to compare. Have you heard that comparison is the thief of joy?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we consciously don't have a league table in the report because we're just trying to get people to learn and engage people in the subject.
Yes. What are the key themes that come from the report? I read the review of it, and it's like great. There's loads of great stuff. But what are the key themes that people should be thinking about before they download the report?
I think age, life stage come out quite strongly. Gender, there's some interesting points on gender in there. There's some interesting things on where we work. I think the most important thing that anyone can do, and you can do this for free, is benchmark yourself against it with your own company.
Okay.
Chris and I have just been down in the Google kitchen, and they've just got everything, haven't they?
Amazing, yeah.
They've got everything.
Yeah.
Like, it made me feel happy being here.
Yeah.
But I was eating some eggs as Chris and I were talking about it, and you can look at the report and you can see interesting insight in it. But like I was eating my eggs, some people are allergic to eggs. Some people don't eat eggs for animal welfare reasons. So look at the report, see what's in there, but then totally for free, go and benchmark yourself, because the only person you really should be comparing yourself with is yourself. Okay, where were you last year? Well, where are you now, and how do you progress? The learning comes from the report, and that's why we're releasing it. But the benchmarking yourself against it is the powerful bit.
Right, so I saw there's themes around like hybrid working, for and against, but tell me a bit about that in terms of like that connection with that and happiness.
I think that the biggest thing that came out, and I'm really conscious when we talk about this stuff that it doesn't get like taken by people that want to push a particular angle, whether it's work from home or from the office. Interestingly, the biggest surprise is people outside of their 20s actually enjoy virtual working as a driver of their happiness. But interestingly, people in their 20s are saying they need time. They don't specifically name the office, but they need time with other people.
Yeah.
And that's where I think sometimes we do use labels like office and stuff in the report, but when you're thinking about yourself, what I think we're really talking about is connection time and time together.
Yeah.
And the office is one of the best ways we have to facilitate that. Like Work Life, one of the sponsors of the report, they do flexible working workspaces. They're interested in seeing what that data is. However, an office is one really good way to connect people. This event today has been live streamed. I'm here with you. We're in Google's offices, but you can also think about connection slightly different as well.
Absolutely. Like, so, I mean, so in terms of like, we've got, so one thing that stood out for me was this thing about organizations are focusing on one thing primarily, but actually they should be focusing on something else.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
I think without giving away all the spoilers later today, companies tend to work and focus on the systems and processes of an organization, and those things are important. We're not saying that, but employees view employment as a relationship. So you can think about it all day long as a contract, as a legal, this, that, and the other. But employees experience work as a relationship. And I think that's the biggest key finding from the report. But I think once you start thinking like that, how you design your business, how you organize it, how you lead it, suddenly changes. And if you're happy to get behind that and understand that concept, it opens up a whole new view of what leadership is from my perspective. If you think about leadership as facilitating the relationships of the team that are trying to achieve the goals, it's a game-changing, subtle shift.
Actually, so for me, there is that connection with that thing about connection with kind of autonomy and purpose and that kind of mastery element. You know, that reminds me of like Dan Pink and what he talks about. You know, is great. So how does that fit into it in terms of what you found in the data?
There's an interesting thing in there about ENPS. So for those that don't know, that's Employee Net Promoter Score. It's a question related to, would you recommend this company to work to your friends and family? What we've seen is the highest predictor of whether people will do that comes from the meaning and purpose section, and it's related to values connection. Long story short, all the great stuff on meaning and purpose and values connection. If your employees don't connect with the values of your organization, what you will find is they won't recommend you.
Right. Okay.
And that will obviously flow into customer and so on. So the whole advocacy piece is missing unless you can connect on that level.
And there's people who will be like happy at work, will be fine at work.
Yeah.
But when it's like, would you suggest?
Yeah.
So that nuance is really important to understand.
It's massive because all those little things, referrals, bringing new great staff members in, referring in customers, they're not going to do it. They won't recommend your products and services if they don't align with the values.
Very nice. Before we get kicked off the stage,
let's get busy in here.
What other what are the other like one or two kind of themes that you want to pull out from this report, or that kind of resonates with you?
For me, the biggest thing is we are living, Chris and I were just chatting about this off air, we're living at an intersection of AI where everyone's talking about AI.
Yeah. And
AI is an incredible tool, but differentiation, in my view, is still going to come from human beings.
100%.
The technology, we need to master it, we need to understand it, there's ethical considerations, there's loads of stuff. We're going through this. I think it's going to be at least another 3 years of really working out how AI works.
Yeah, definitely.
However, any business trying to differentiate in the future is human beings, and that's your employees, it's your customer service. That is still going to make the difference. The world of work will change. The number of employees needed in certain sectors will change. There are tough times ahead on that front. However, it's understanding the employees and the connections they make with other human beings. There are so many things that you can automate in the world right now. Example I remember going to Dublin years ago, and it's probably 15, 16 years ago, and they'd worked out how to automate serving you a pint of Guinness. And we thought this was genius. We thought this is the future. But go to Dublin now, there's not many of those things because people like to have a pint brought by a person.
Yeah.
So there is
Yeah.
no doubt, and we talk about AI and the impact of it in the report, but the human beings are going to be how you differentiate in a competitive market.
Sure, actually, that reminds me of something that is technically makes sense, logically makes sense, which is not having automating the doorman in a hotel situation.
There you go.
You know, but actually, it's that connection. Hello, welcome.
Yeah.
So that human connection is really important.
Yeah.
Well, look, really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, Chris.
And I'm looking forward to today. Anyone who wants to get access to the report, then go straight to the Happiness Index website. And no doubt the report is there available for people to access. And also, I'll be posting this later on, so the report link will be there as well. And look, Matt Phelan's on LinkedIn, so get in touch. Classic, let's keep the conversation going. Good man.
Thanks, Chris.